Hi guys, my name is Inkboy, and this is Second Life. Second Life is a online game where you can literally do and be whatever you want to be. It's a really cool game, especially if you like The Sims. It's kind of like the next step up. It's basically Sims on steroids, essentially. So, but I wanted to make a video on how I do my setup for my pictures within Second Life. It has a huge community for in-game photography on Flickr, and I found it's a really great outlet for me to express my creativity. And in fact, if I'm really stressed out, I do a picture on Second Life, and the concentration of editing the picture and everything just kind of helps me work through that the stress and everything. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and show you all how I set up for my pictures and just give you some tips and tricks, and hopefully you can use them to your advantage and improve some things with your pictures in Second Life and things like that. Just a disclaimer though, I do have a high-end computer. I built it myself. My graphics card can handle anything I could throw at it. So if you're not able to run shadows within Second Life, your experience from this tutorial might be a little bit less beneficial than someone that can do the same. But I do encourage you to fully watch it because there might be some tips and tricks in here that you could still use. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you need to make a good picture in Second Life, of course, is a good pose. You don't want to just like be standing there looking like this, right? So depending on your avatar, if you have like a average avatar, you could just go on the marketplace or an in-world store and buy a pose. Me, I'm not my avatar is not average. He's a bigger guy, as you can see, and so most of the time I have to make my own poses, which I prefer. Even if I have an average avatar, if I switch to a different body on Second Life, I still make my own poses because that I just like the originality of that. So what I have is the AnyPose system. Now this you can find on the marketplace really easily, I believe still, and I paid around 3K lindens for it at the time, I think, and I can let you know it is fully worth the money. So if you're worried it's not going to be worth it, it is. I've been using this for years. If you're really into Second Life photography, you want to pick this up so you can start making your own poses as well. Now once you get the hang of this thing, you can knock out a good pose in less than like a minute, honestly, truly. So, and I'll just show you. I'm very familiar with this body and what looks best with this body, so I'm going to go ahead and just set this pose up really quick. Just a standard pose that would look good, right? So, do that, and then we just got to get this arm looking good. Go ahead and rotate the hand. And then see, this looks good already, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click these three dots here, and there we go. Now my hands are bento, and this version of AnyPose does not have bento capabilities, but the updated version does. I just chose not to update quite yet because I use a separate HUD for my hands since they are bento, and I just get them situated like that, as you can see. And this HUD is the SMS Bento hand position HUD. So I also got that off of the marketplace if you're interested in that. I believe this was fairly cheap, honestly. Alright, so we went ahead and we made a pose and everything. Next, you're going to need a background. Now, me personally, I like the minimalist approach to this because I don't want the background to take away from the picture itself, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want someone to look at my picture and see something on a table and be like, oh, what's that? And then, you know, it's just, I prefer a blank background because of that reason. The majority of my pictures have a blank background because of that. Now, on occasion, I'll have a backdrop because there are some really cool backdrops coming out on Second Life these days. So I do like to play around with those on occasion, but most of the time, I have a blank background. If you want to also use a blank background with the method I'm about to teach you, it's best to use like the darker colors as your background. I found that like plain white just looks kind of funky with the method I'm about to show you. So I usually go for like darker grays, You also don't want to do just like pitch black because that's going to look bad as well. Another thing I do is in my little studio here is you'll notice I have my avatar elevated, and the reason for that is when I take a picture, I don't want this crease right here to be in the picture. I just want it to be one solid background. Now this is a pretty good angle right here, and all I'm doing is just hitting the Alt key and moving around here, as you can see, to really just focus in on my avatar and get the position that I like. Now, before I start playing with wind lights and the shadows, I always go to Alt Shift H on my keyboard, and that will clean up your window here, get rid of all your HUDs and your clutter so that you can really get a good idea of what you're looking at in this picture, right? So let's go ahead and get like a good angle here. Let's see. So it's almost there. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. Alright, so we're just gonna basically this will be our shot, right? Just this position. Now right now I'm looking pretty basic. Like there's nothing really going on with this. Like you don't even really see shadows because of my default wind light and things like that. There's a few things we have to do to get the shadows really popping on here. So you could just adjust the wind light and give yourself some basic shadows. And I'll show you that really quick. If you wanted to, you could just go up here to Environment Editor, Presets, and as I move this, we can see we do get some shadow action, and like you get some of this stuff, and you can do this and stuff, but while that's nice, it's not as nice as this trick I'm going to show you. So I did notice, however, I need to go back to Alt Shift H and go back up to any pose and hit hide and show, and that will get rid of my base and the pose ball up there because we've seen the shadow back there from that pose ball. So anyways, now that that's done, Alt Shift H. Okay, now what I do before messing with the environment editor and the wind light is I go to photo and video, and then I go to photo tools. Now this is like the main thing that makes my pictures look really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do take them out and edit them inside of Photoshop. If you want to see a second video on how I edit within Photoshop, let me know. I'll be happy to post that for you. But what I do is I go into photo tools. I don't mess with this. In fact, I'm not very familiar with any of the stuff on this tab or really any of these other things. I just go to light, and I go in here and I have all these checked and all the things. Make sure your shadows are complex. Again, you might have to adjust these depending on your computer, but this is what my computer can handle and have it set for. Now in here, I'm going to drag this max scale all the way up, and what this max scale slider does, it's really weird. It basically makes it to where you can't make this more than this, if that makes sense. So like, if I put it here, this, you're not going to see any difference past that point. It's very strange, so I just put that all the way up. Factor, we're going to go ahead and put this all the way up. Now effect, it's really weird because you would think with the slider being all the way up it would have more effects, but that's not true in our case. We're going to slide this all the way down, and then AO soften, we'll keep that as is. Now this is the magic moment when you go up here to scale and you just start to slowly slide it. See, just like that, we're getting more intense shadow work. And you can slide this all the way up to this point. Now this does look a little crazy, so I'm going to drag it down a little bit, and we'll probably go for about right there. And this works for my avatar and the look I'm going for. If you're someone that is not in a muscular avatar, you may want to do the lights a little bit differently. But me personally, I use this because, as you can see, it highlights and kind of chisels out the muscles a little bit better in the picture. You can also go up here to these sliders and mess around with them. I don't really mess around with them too much. The shadow blur is really the main one that's gonna make a difference for you here, but I don't like to blur the shadows too much. And so there's that. You can also go around here. I'm probably gonna make the smoothest texture bumpiness. Make that. I don't mess with any of these, to be honest. You just go through here and just make sure that if you have the computer that can handle it, all of this stuff is marked up as high as it can go as far as the graphics quality. So now we got that going. The next thing that we need to do is we need to get our wind light going. And so here's my wind light setting, and I'm not even gonna like move the wind light here. To be honest with you, I don't have a favorite wind light. I kind of just go through here and play around with them. I never use a wind light as is. So what I do is, let's just use my default one, right? We'll move it around. We'll get something good here, like so. That looks really awesome, right? But we got this, it looks kind of washed out. So to counteract that, if you go up here to the max alt slider, you can slide this up, and then as you can see, that fixes that problem. And now we're starting to get a really good picture. You can also go here to the sun and moon settings and mess with the ambient and sun and moon color, which I usually do, and I don't even really pay attention to what color I'm picking. I usually put this to the side and just kind of look at my avatar and see what looks best. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little more saturation with the color. We're just going to kind of move this around and find a good spot. So that's pretty good right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the ambient. Now the ambient tends to be a little bit more overpowering than the other, which is fine. And you can also lighten this up too if you want, but I'm just going to keep it pretty down. So we'll go with about right there. So that's looking pretty good at this point. I'm ready to snap the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now this picture looks pretty fantastic, just raw. And so this is a good base for me to pop into Photoshop and edit what I need to edit. But honestly, you could post this picture like this and people would be impressed. But another main thing that you need to do is when you take a picture, you need to make sure that you use your custom proportions here. You don't want to just do like default proportions, because that's going to compress your image and not make it very high quality. I recommend to do at least 6,000 by like 3,000 and you know, some odd pixels there. Just 6,000 by 3,000 should be perfect. You can bump it up more if you like, but it has to at least be 5 to 6,000 by like 2 to 3,000. You know, just get it way up there, because the bigger the resolution is, the more the better the quality of the picture is going to be. So at this point, I would just save this, pop it into Photoshop, probably smooth the edges out, mess with the color, blending a little bit and things like that to really make it pop. Maybe add some like gradient screen over it, something like that. But for the most part, this is the base to my pictures. If you have any questions, please drop a comment, hit me up in my inbox, anything like that. I'm going to be posting this to Flickr, Facebook, and my YouTube. So if you're interested, you can subscribe to me on YouTube. I'm the Ink Boy on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitch, Twitch TV /Inkboy. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video.